Hello. You know how many times I've heard people use the word golden ratio or Fibonacci sequence? Like, what does it mean? I don't know. It just means beauty in nature. I'm going to talk about three things and join them into one thing. And people would have given anything back in ancient days for this type of information. Some people probably did. Then we have to ask ourselves, where did the Pythagoreans, and who knows how much more ancient it was than the Pythagoreans or Pythagoras, where did they get it from? Someone's going to say aliens, I know. I've said many times that there's no math in nature. And there isn't any math in nature, excuse me. There's ratios and harmonics. Self-similarity. When we say golden ratio, this is always the image of the cross-section. This is real. Cross-section of a nautilus shell. Anytime you type in the golden ratio, you'll get an image of this. It's like, well, yeah, it's beautiful. Just as beautiful faces and beautiful things in nature are beautiful, but this is kind of the most simple representation that everybody keeps using to refer to the golden ratio. Well, what does it mean? It means perfect, harmonic, multiplicative of the one or the divine. And I like to keep things simple, as much as people think I ever try to complicate things, and I never do, is that we're talking about absolute self-similarity. Everything that's beautiful in nature, including the cross-section of that nautilus shell, is a harmonic, or you could say a holographic mirage of the one, or the divine, or the agathon, or Brahman. You take your pick. It goes by a lot of different names. It's certainly not sentient being, the big G word everybody, of course, wants to use. People say, well, what about all the beauty in nature? You know, there has to be a sentient absolute, or the big G. I'm not going to say the word. It's like, yeah, I know how you could see that from a limited understanding, but there's a completely, infinitely more rational explanation than that. I'm not interested in going into that. Talking about three things: the divided line secret that's hidden in Plato's Republic, 509d to 511, and it's much more ancient than Plato. A lot of the stuff attributed to Plato is far more ancient than Plato. Even the Greek and the Timaeus and the Parmenides and part of the Republic is far more archaic than the time of Plato. It's really hard to translate, too. Pythagorean pentagram, and interestingly enough, the water molecule. And there's a passage in Timaeus 31b through 32 which says, but two things alone cannot be satisfactorily united, we're talking about spirit and matter, without a third thing, for there must be a bond between these two to draw these two things together. Well, that third thing is water, because without water, everybody's just a pile of dust. And of course, nobody is a pile of dust or matter themselves. I'm talking about the living physical being, composed of forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Also, too, the original Pythagorean trinity, which follows the Fibonacci sequence, and the ancients said, I'm going to keep it really simple, said that everything was complete in 5. By the way, every time you use the word excess, which is nearly the same in Latin and is nearly the same in Greek, you're actually saying 666. It's just a little side note. The word for excess, because excess, since everything is complete in 5, and that's where that's where life begins. Everything after that is something in excess. And of course, every form of ancient metaphysics says excess is evil, evil is excess. And by the way, in referring to the Pythagorean pentagram, I have no interest, no connection, no love for anything that goes under the guise of, and there's meaningless terms too, by the way, Wiccan, pagan. All of this stuff was hijacked hundreds of years ago and ascribed to occultists. And they're used by people that call themselves occultists. But I'm talking, and I've only ever been interested in the original articles. So I like to talk about the Pythagorean pentagram, water, this divided line section, and Yugatha. By the way, I have Yugatha tattooed on my upper knuckles there on my left hand. It doesn't mean harmony. You'll actually, if you type it in, it's 5 letters in the Greek. Sometimes it's pronounced as eugia or yugata. People say, well, it means health or harmony. Well, health or harmony is what is beautiful. We can all agree that anything that is not healthy or harmonic is not pretty. I'm trying to be nice here. In other words, it's ugly. Everything that's beautiful is a harmonic. In other words, it's working as a perfect working mechanism in nature, of nature. Yeah. By the way, when I say there's no math in nature, I really do mean that. Mother Nature, not that there is a literal Mother Nature. As a hairy armpit chick with muddy feet, she doesn't have a calculator. Everything that we see is beautiful in nature is a ratio. Like I said, it is a holographic mirage or multiplicative of the divine. That's what the Fibonacci sequence is. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, etc., etc. Everything is complete in 5. By the way, that's where the original Trinity comes from, but that's a matter for another discussion. The original Trinity, I've kind of humorously made them all start with an M. So if you're a female, you know, don't take any offense at the fifth one I'm calling M. It's onto, sort of being. Monad, mind, magnitude, matter as the second, and the third as onto, sort of man. So the monad, mind, magnitude, matter, and man. The synthesis of those three things, of course, life or ontos requires the union of these first two, of which the ancient Pythagoreans in Timaeus 31b say, well, it was written by Plato. No, it wasn't. The Timaeus Greek is really archaic and very hard to translate. It's a reference to water. The water is that third thing that makes things possible. In my radio analogy, which is nearly perfect, we would have the spirit, which of course is everywhere and nowhere. We'd have the radio as representation of the body. And consciousness, the broadcast out of that radio, analogous to existential consciousness, which of course is the consubstantiality between matter and spirit, that would being the broadcast. And the third thing, which makes the union of those two things possible, is the antenna, or in this case, we're talking about water, is a holographic representation of that which makes union between matter and spirit possible. And I'm sure it's totally coincidental that the one thing from one end of this universe to the other that makes life possible, being water, has this unique geometry that is exactly the 108, 36, 36. Someone will say, well, if you actually type in the water molecule harmonic angles, it's 104.5, I think it is, and they're assuming measurement from the nucleus of the oxygen and hydrogen atoms. However, nobody's actually measured it, but it's actually meant to be measured from the outside harmonic, the geometry itself. In other words, the volume that the molecule takes. It is 108.36. So you're actually splitting hairs of ignorance when people say, well, if you actually look at the water molecule, it's 104 degrees. Well, that's the assumed center or nucleus of the atoms. Once again, nobody's measured it. If you actually take it from the area of influence, it is that perfect geometry. This is that same upside-down green triangle here, which is the 108, 36, 36-degree triangle. By the way, you look this up. It's the hidden secret in Plato's Republic. Once again, not written by Plato. Getting into the divided line section, which is 509d to 511. By the way, every modern scientist will agree. They call it dark matter. They call it dark matter because they think everything is matter. Let's say 70% roughly of the universe is invisible. We don't know what it is. Well, the ancient Pythagoreans, and who knows before them, discovered that perfect ratio between the cosmos nuitos, that would be the invisible universe, and the cosmos thitos, that would be the palpable or material universe of form and matter. If you actually take, and if you read 509d to 511, you take a line and you divide it unevenly. Okay, let's divide it unevenly. Here we go. There you go. We got that line divided unevenly. You take each one of those new sections and you divide it unevenly again. Okay? Here we have it. Right there. Okay? What you end up with, and this is not numbers. Sure, it's numbers. No, it's not. It's ratios and harmonics. Big difference between arithmetic and math. Big, big difference. What you find out that these ratios become phi, 1, 1, and 1 over phi. Yeah? And this Pythagorean triangle, which is also to the geometry of water, tattooed on the upside down of my hand, you end up discovering that this whole thing itself, of course, is 1. Yeah, but in representation, you actually have a 70% split over here, roughly, of the cosmos nuitos, and over here we have the cosmos thitos. Here we have 1 and 1, which is, of course, 1 But those are the first two digits of the Fibonacci sequence. The 1 and the second one are not different one or separate ones, rather a multiplicative or extrinsic attribute. Light and illumination are not two things. Yeah. They're principle and attribute. And this gets to the very core and very heart of emanationism. Emanationism, by the way, is the metaphysics of the ancient Greeks and Indians, Egyptians, Advaita Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Vedas, original Buddhism, and I emphasize original. Pythagoras, Plato, Plotinus, Numenius, Syrianus, Damasius, on and on and on and on. Yeah, emanationism, which basically nobody knows anything about. But you actually have these sections, phi, 1, 1, and 1 over phi. If you go over here to the Pythagorean triangle, which is, by the way, not my opinion, this is a fact. This is the only perfect incommensurable geometry in the whole universe, which is also, too, the geometry of water. Let me draw it out here. You got 1, 1, and then phi, and of course right up here at the apex is 1, but that's the ascendant 1. That's before division occurs. It's like, well, where's the fourth section of the divided line, which is 1 over phi, which is 0.618, for example? Well, it's right here. You make an incommensurable cut, and that becomes 1 over phi. And you see over here, this new triangle is the exact same. I kind of drew it slightly lopsided. But this new triangle is the exact same thing as the whole. Pretty sure we call that today fractal self-similarity. This is the 108, 36, 36 triangle. And 108, 36, 36. And if you actually take, this once again gets to the original trinity, you take that same triangle in triplicate. Penta, of course, means phi, but you overlay those triangles, and of course I've kind of drawn it lopsided here. By the way, the ancient Greek representation of the pentagram of the Pythagoreans is always, always, always 2 points up. Okay? Always. You end up with this, the Pythagorean pentagram. Yeah? You got tattooed over here, like I said, on my fingers. They were coins of, that were showing y, g, theta, epsilon, and aether. Water, earth, or Gaia, soul, or idea. EI, or hele, as in helios, i.e. sun, which of course is therma. EI, which if you actually draw it as one character becomes theta, is the sun and the soul. Ancient Egyptian symbolism, which 99.999% of everybody is too unintelligent to look at and know what it's saying. Some metaphysical language of the priestly class, not of the lay people. That's not my opinion. That's also, too, a fact. Shows the snake coming up out of the solar sun. That snake is a representation, as it is in India, for the individuated soul. In other words, they're an inseparable one. This conjugate binary. You know, the solar self versus the individuated self. Kind of like a single light seen 1,000 times in 1,000 soap bubbles. It's probably been 30 years since I've had a soap bubble bath, but I remember that. You have one light up above, and you see it 1,000 times in 1,000 soap bubbles. So anyway, the divided line speaks of, and that's the whole secret of the universe, right there, the divided line section. You have the 70% of the unseen universe over here to the cosmos noetos, and over here the visible universe, that's the cosmos athetos, the palpable, the demonstrable universe. And everything is complete in 5. By the way, you end up with 50, yeah, there we go. Of the Greek coins, the tetrahedron, which is fire, the cube, which is earth, the octahedron, which is air, the dodecahedron, which is spirit, and the icosahedron is water. All of these numbers, representing the facets of these geometries, all add up to 50, or 5 in the sphere of existence, as once again said. Everything is complete in 5. Everything after 5 is excess. Certain Greek words were also 2 numbers. You could look that up. That's not my opinion either. That's a hardcore fact. And this 3-letter Greek is exisios, in Latin is excessius, nearly identical also too in English, coincidentally, very fascinating, which is excess. Is anytime we talk about excess, like, you know what happened to Joe down the street? Well, he sat on his tush all day long and played video games and drank big gulp soda pops and ate Cheetos, and unfortunately he met his maker at the age of 40 because he engaged in unbridled excess. In other words, there was no harmony to his life. You say there's no harmony to life, and when we could talk about like an automobile engine, like an older one where you could see all the gears and everything moving. I mean, they talk about sabotage, where you throw your sabot, your wooden shoes, into the mechanical works, and it would throw everything out of harmony, and everything would go helter-skelter and sideways, like throwing a wrench into a working automobile engine. You know, it gets in the way of the belts and the pulleys and the this and that, and all of a sudden, instantly, there's not harmony anymore. Everything is helter-skelter and thrown sideways, and harmonics are broken up. So we could say in a very, very crude fashion that the incorrect I hate chalk on my fingers, I can't stand that. The saying that yukata, meaning health or harmony, is accurate, but it means ratioed perfection, beauty, and harmony. In other words, the gear that fits in perfectly into the wheelworks of nature. We're supposed to have harmony and balance in our lives, said the fat guy who doesn't get enough exercise, right? But, you know, I know that. Pythagorean pentagram, once again, made up of 3 triangles. The only incommensurable geometry in the whole universe. The only one. And don't you find it interesting? Let me draw it again. That's the only geometry that makes life possible? Yeah, let me draw it here. 2 little hydrogen atoms here, an oxygen atom up here. Yeah, this is what makes life possible, because without this, everybody's just a little pile of dust. This is that 1-1-phi triangle of harmonic self-similarity. This, by the way, is the secret of incommensurability. There's an ancient saying from Iamblichus, the Theology of Arithmetic, which is a great little book. You could read it in a day. Everybody should get it on Amazon and buy it. It's called the Theology of Arithmetic. Very ancient text. Movement thanks to the dyad, that's reference to the attribute, and life thanks to the pentad. Well, life, number 5, is ontos, or being, i.e. life. It's an ancient, you can find that in that book. Really great book. Everybody should have that book. Little red hardcover books, like 60 pages or something. But 2 things alone cannot be satisfactorily united without a third. That third thing, of course, is water, the union between matter and spirit. The antenna for life to exist. The Pythagoreans called the pentagram and the pentad nemesis because it distributed, i.e. emanation, the heavenly and the divine in perfect proportion ratios. Once again, the term yugata doesn't mean health any more than the word logos means word. Sure, logos means word. No, logos doesn't really mean word. It means, there's no single translation for the word logos. It depends on the context in which it's used. The heavenly and the divine, i.e. totality, or pan. The word of pan is the same as the word sabe in ancient Pali. This is totality. This is, of course, the cosmos. Both ends of the cosmos, the visible and the invisible. Also, to this pentad was deemed Athena, because it revealed the fifth essence. Hello, ether or psyche. This is from Iamblichus, the Theology of Arithmetic. Also, once again, that great little maroon jacketed book. I recommend everybody buy. You could read it in a day. It's not that big. The pentagram, because the symbol secretly represented pentalpha, the recognition symbol amongst the Pythagoreans, and they used it in their letters. In other words, it was the sigil, and it's been hijacked hundreds and hundreds of years ago by the entities the Christians call the occultists, the pagans, Wiccans. You take your pick, I don't care. These are meaningless terms. I have no interest in any of that stuff. You can't actually draw that symbol anymore without somebody thinking you're involved in some sort of, once again, meaningless word, occult. Don't care about that. Couldn't care less, have no connection to it, none whatsoever. But everybody thinks that. That's because everybody is really very, very ignorant, unfortunately. Yeah, in Greek representation, it has always been 2 points up. The top 2 are the air and the spirit. The base 2 or earth and water, and the bottom, of course, is fire. Altogether, they conjure, and this is where the idea of magic comes from. These things in a harmonic working order, kind of like sticking a bunch of gears together and making a fine Rolex, right? Everything's working together. Like, well, now you have a timepiece. Well, when you put these things together and they're working in harmony, this term yugata, this is real magic. You've actually conjured life. Because consciousness is nowhere in the oxygen or hydrogen atoms that make up water. It's in the incommensurable geometry, which is holographic, self-similarity. Right here. Yeah, it's right here. Well, there's nothing there. Hydrogen atoms over here, your oxygen atoms over here. That's where consciousness exists. Even so-called scientists today are baffled by consciousness. They can't, you can't put your finger on it. You can't put your finger on a pole on a magnet either. That's because it's holographic. It is incommensurable. You cut a magnet in half, you got two new magnets. Yeah, there's no North Pole here and South Pole over here. It doesn't work that way. So the union of these three things and what the golden ratio actually means is the true secret of the Pythagoreans. Golden ratio, people say golden ratio, golden ratio. What does it mean? It just means fractal self-similarity, harmonic multiplicative, which is a ratio, not a number. There's a ratio of perfection. Everything we see is beautiful in nature. Ooh, that's beautiful, look at that. Yeah, but you're just looking at a multiplicative fractal of the one. That's why it is beautiful. It is a multiplicative mirage. Mirage or self-similarity of the one, from the one. And this, of course, is the basis of emanationism. In Greek, that term is prohodos. And then the divided line. Take a line, divide it unevenly, take these two sections, divide it unevenly again. You have literally the entire universe. Phi 1, 1 over phi, which equals 1 over phi to the power of -3, which also, too, equals phi cubed. Pretty sure there's a trinity in there, too, like a few different places. Why, yes, there is. The trinity in the divided line's like, well, there's 4 sections in the divided line. Now there's really 3, because the central section 1 and 1 are not two different ones. They're the agathon and the aoristos dia. So this is one thing. Phi over here is another thing. And 1 over phi over here is another thing. And these 3 are also 2. You know, we have the water molecule, we got 1, 1, and phi, and the incommensurable cut of holographic self-similarity, which is 1 over phi. You have the sections. You know who's figured out the deep, deep hidden secrets of the divided line in Plato's Republic 509d to 511? Well, the tattooed bald guy right here. Me. That's united with that which gives life. Power, manifest life, water molecule, same geometry. The golden ratio, it's divine, explain it. What is the golden ratio? I don't know. This means it's beautiful. Well, that's descriptively accurate, but you didn't explain anything. You know, the devil's in the details. You know, anybody can describe what something is. Car, what does it do? Well, it goes fast. It gives me information. You know, that's descriptively accurate, but you haven't really explained what a car is. How it works, what it feeds on, you know. All that. That's the explanation of what a car is. So you try to get somebody to explain the golden ratio. They have no idea, which is fine. It's okay not to know. But most people think they know. Well, it's beauty in nature. Like, well, yeah, that's descriptively accurate, but you still didn't explain it at all. So the Pythagorean pentagram is made up of those 3 triangles. And there's a reason why I've got that tattooed on the upside down here, where I hold my hand. I got to turn it like this. That's the perfect incommensurable geometry of one end of this universe to the other end. This same triangle, if I mirror image it 2 more times and turn it around, you have the Pythagorean pentagram. And that is the only perfect, not my opinion, the only, there's not another one, the only perfect geometry in the whole universe. It's so simple that they took a line and they said, well, divide it unevenly. Okay, divide each one of those new sections out. Okay, there you got, there's the secret of the universe. Well, I don't get it. Here you got phi 1, 1 over phi. This makes up the basis of the water molecule, the geometry of the entire universe, the ratio of the entire universe. Also, 2, the nature of beauty and harmony. Wouldn't that be you know, 99.9% of the universe? Well, yes, yes, it would be. So what if I told you the secret? Man, isn't this amazing? I gotta say it again because it's so mind-blowing. What if I could explain the whole universe in a straight line? Oh, you're crazy. I'm going to explain to you beauty, life, incommensurability, which is a matter for another discussion, and why this is the symbol of us folk, the Pythagoreans. In a line, you're going to do that in a line. Yep. Basis for life, beauty, harmony, the ratio and geometry of the universe. In a line. Yep. Take a line, divide it unevenly, take each one of the sections, divide it out, phi 1, 1 over phi. I could actually go deeper down that rabbit hole for hours. I could show you this harmonic curve between the divided line, which I've done years and years and years and years ago on a gigantic chalkboard. Don't you find that mind-blowing? The alpha and the omega, the secrets of the whole universe, the explanation for emanationism, prohodos, all from cutting up, making two sections, two cuts, no, three cuts technically, excuse me. Three cuts, you end up with four sections, but those central two, 1 and 1, are not two different things or cuts. They're one thing, principle and attribute. Yeah. This is, of course, the divine conjugate, like dielectricity and magnetism. This is the agathon and the euristos dias, which are not two things, they're one thing. This is where the Trinity comes from. You think Trinity is original to Christianity? Oh, no. No, no, no. No. That's keeping it pretty simple in this video. I think so. There you go, folks. The secrets of the universe, all derived from one line with three cuts. If you like these videos, any donations always warmly welcome. I'll check you out in the live stream when we have a great time talking. Yeah, I love meeting you all on live stream. And check out all my free downloads. Make sure to check out my Substack. I have an article on all of this in my Substack. It's completely free. Thank you so much for watching. Lux e Veritas. Thank you.